Today, we're going to review Unit 1 on patterns and equations to help you prepare for your upcoming test. Let's work through some practice questions together. Our first question asks us to identify 3 mistakes in an input-output table. The pattern rule is multiply the input by 3, then add 1. Let's look at the table. We can see the input column starts at the number 1. It's increasing by 1 each time all the way up to the number 6. I'm going to let you in on a little secret that will help you determine where the 3 errors are. They are all in the output column, and they're not the first one. The first one is correct. Pause the video now and try to find the 3 errors on your own. See if you can determine what the correct numbers should be. Welcome back. Let's check our answers. Using the rule multiply by 3, then add 1, we know for the first one it is correct because 1, the input, times 3 equals 3, plus 1 equals 4. For the input 2, 2 times 3 equals 6, plus 1 equals 7. That one is also correct. For the input number 3, 3 times 3 equals 9, plus 1, that equals 10. But the table shows 8. So we know we have found one of our errors. For input number 4, 4 times 3 equals 12, plus 1 equals 13. But the table shows 12, so I have found my second error. Input number 5 would be 5 times 3 equals 15, plus 1 equals 16. That one's correct. Let's move on to input number 6. 6 times 3 equals 18, plus 1 equals 19. But the table shows 13, so I have just found my third error. The errors are for the numbers 8, 12, and 13, and they should be corrected with the numbers 10, 13, and 19. For the next question, you need to write the pattern rule for the input and the pattern rule for the output. Here's the input-output table. The input, we can see it starts at 1. Think about what's happening in that table. For the output side of it, it starts at the number 4. I encourage you now to pause the video and try to determine both pattern rules. All right, let's check our answers. The input pattern rule is starting at 1, you increase by 1 each time. The output pattern rule is to start at 4 and increase by 3 each time. Great job if you had it. For this next question, you need to write an expression with a variable to represent each pattern rule. Let n represent the input. Your first question is to multiply the input by 5, then add 3. The second one is to divide the input by 2, then subtract 5. And finally, the third one is to multiply the input by 9, then subtract 1. At this time, I encourage you to pause the video and try these expressions on your own. Come back when you're ready. All right. Welcome back. Let's check our answers. The first answer for the expression would be 5n plus 3. The second, n divided by 2, subtract 5. And finally, 9n subtract 1. Remember, we use the variable n to represent the input value in each case. For this next question, you need to write the coordinates of each point labeled A through E on the coordinate grid. Pause the video now and try it on your own. Remember, we always write coordinates as x, y, where x is in the horizontal position and y is in the vertical position. Let's get to the answers. The ordered pair, or coordinates, for point A is 2 and 1. For B, it is 4 and 5. For C, 9 and 3. D, 1 and 8. And for E, the ordered pair is 8 and 6. Moving on, you need to write an expression with 2 numbers and 1 operation to balance each equation. Look closely. You want to make sure that both sides will equal. Pause the video and try to write balanced equations. But be aware there are multiple possible answers. Welcome back. Here are a sample of answers that you could have used in this question. For A, 7 times 6 also equals 42. For B, 3 times 5 also equals 15, just like 20 subtract 5. And 2 times 4 equals 8, which equals 64 divided by 8. Great job on that. For this question, identify the numbers and operations in the input-output machine. Here's the table. Your input starts at the number 1 and increases by 1 each time up to the number 4. Your output starts at the number 2 and increases by 5 each time up to the number 17. Use the clues there. Pause the video and try to figure out the pattern rule. Welcome back. The pattern rule is to multiply by 5, then subtract 3. Remember, the clue we were given was that the output was increasing by 5 each time. That gives us a very big hint that we should try multiplying the input by 5. And when we did that with the first one, for example, 1 times 5 equals 5. And then in order to have the output equal 2, I would need to subtract 3. And that is the second part of the process of what happens in the input-output machine. All right, moving on. From here, I would like you to write an expression that represents the pattern from that previous question, using the pattern rule that relates the input to output and the input-output table if you need it. Write an expression now. Okay, the expression I was hoping you all would write is 5n subtract 3. This shows that we multiply the input, represented by the letter n, by 5, then subtract 3. Remember, the number always goes before the variable. We would not write this n5. We would always write it as 5n. Using the expression 5n subtract 3, find the output when the input is 10. Pause the video and solve this problem. All right, the answer is 47. So let's look at that a little bit closer. We can calculate it. 5 times 10, so 5 times 10, because 10 is the input here, would be 50. 50 subtract 3 is 47. In this next one, I would like you to rewrite each expression using the commutative property. The 2 questions I give you, the first one is 9 times 8, and the second one is 34 plus 17. Pause the video and rewrite these expressions. Using the commutative property, I hope you were able to come up with 8 times 9 and 17 plus 34. Remember, the commutative property states that you can change the order of numbers when adding or multiplying, and the result stays the same. Here's your next question. Write an equivalent form of the equation 5C equals 30. Pause the video and write your answers. Welcome back. There are many possible answers. One approach to perform the same operation on both sides of the equation would be to add 10 to both sides. So here I have 5C plus 10 equals 30 plus 10. Another way you could write that would be 5C plus 10 equals 40, which is equivalent to the original equation as well. Now look at the pattern of triangles and record it in a table. Remember to include headings in your table. All right, your table should have a heading for the input column titled Figure Number. A heading for the output column should be Number of Triangles. Our input values are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and our output values are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Notice that the number of triangles starts at 1 and increases by 2 each time. That would be the pattern rule for the output. Next, write an expression for the pattern. For the triangle pattern in the previous question, write an expression to represent it. Pause the video and try to find the expression. If you had an expression of 2n subtract 1, way to go. That's exactly what we were looking for. Now, draw a graph to represent the pattern. Remember to give your graph a title, label the horizontal and vertical axis, mark the origin, label the points from 1 to 10 on both axes, plot the points from your table, and include in brackets the ordered pair of numbers. Pause the video and create your graph. Welcome back. Here you will see that the coordinate grid has a title, triangle pattern. The horizontal axis is labeled figure number. The vertical axis is labeled number of triangles, and each point is plotted on the coordinate grid, followed by, in brackets, the ordered pair, or coordinates. Our next question focuses on Brinley's trip to Sandspit. She needs to pay $8 to get in and $2 for each ride she goes on. Make a table to show how much Brinley will need to go on 1, 2, 3, and 4 rides. Pause the video now and create your table. All right, let's check your table. The table needs to have 2 columns. The first one, titled Number of Rides, is your input column. The numbers in that column should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. The other column, which is the output column, should have the title, The Amount Brinley Pays. You could put a $sign as well. It should start at $10 and be followed by 12, 14, and 16. Now, notice that the amount Brinley pays starts at $10 when she goes on 1 ride, and it increases by $2 each time she adds another ride. Now, write a pattern rule that relates the amount that Brinley pays to the number of rides. You can pause the video and try to write this pattern rule. Welcome back. The pattern rule is multiply the number of rides by 2, then add 8. We can verify that by checking it. If the input is 1 and we multiply it by 2, that would be 2. Then 2 plus 8 equals 10. This rule makes sense because Brinley pays $8 to enter plus $2 for each ride. Next, write an expression to represent the pattern for Brinley's payments. Pause the video and try to write this expression. The expression is 2n plus 8. In this expression, n represents the number of rides. We multiply that by 2 since each ride costs $2. And then we add $8, which was the entrance fee. If Brinley goes on 8 rides, how much money will she need? Pause the video and solve this problem. All right, using our expression 2n plus 8, we can substitute n as equaling 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 plus 8 equals 24. So Brinley will need $24 to go on 8 rides. Here's the next question. If Brinley has $30, how many rides can she go on? Pause the video and solve the problem. To solve this problem, we need to work backwards, using our expression. We know our expression is 2n plus 8, and in this case, we know that needs to equal 30 for $30. And we can then solve for n. The first thing we would want to do is to subtract 8 from both sides. That would leave us with 2n equals 22. Then you could divide both sides by 2 and n will equal 11. So with $30, Brinley can go on 11 rides. That's our final question for today. Thanks for watching this test prep video for Unit 1 on patterns and equations. Remember to review all these concepts before your test. Good luck, everyone!